Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear viewers, welcome to a new episode of Quran and Science. This is your host, Tamer Mumtaz. As usual with us is Professor Zaghloul Al-Najjar, Head of Committee on Scientific Facts in Glorious Quran, and our guests, Mustafa and Fuad. So today we'll be speaking about the Big Bang. And now we'll hear a recitation of the verse that we'll be discussing today. It is of Surah Al-Anbiya, verse number 30.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أولم ير الذين كفروا أن السماوات والأرض كانتا رتقا ففتقناهما وجعلنا من الماء كل شيء حي أفلا يؤمنون.
Do not the disbelievers know that the heavens and earth were one mass until we parted them? And we created from water every living thing. Will they not believe?
So, Dr. Zaghloul, today we're going to speak about the Big Bang.
Yes.
What is the Big Bang?
I begin by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and seeking His mercy upon Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allah, our creator, the creator of this universe and of everything that's in it, without parallels, partners or similitudes. Allah, who is exalted above all His creation. We praise Him and seek His blessings to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The Big Bang is a theory. It does not rank to the status of being an established fact.
It is still a theory.
It is still a theory. But it has got many signs that would support its validity. One of the signs of the Big Bang, or the proofs of the Big Bang, is the expansion of the universe. The fact that the universe is expanding supports the hypothesis or the theory of the Big Bang. Secondly, there is a uniform temperature at the periphery of the observed universe. This temperature is 3 degrees absolute. And you cannot get a unified temperature all at the periphery of the universe unless the universe has started from a point and then exploded. Thirdly, when you explode a condensed body, you change it into smoke. And as we mentioned in the previous episode, the initial smoke from which the universe was created has already been photographed at the periphery of our observed universe. So these are 3 signs, 3 proofs to substantiate the theory of the Big Bang.
Doctor, can we please make it clear the difference between theory and fact?
A theory is a proposition by a scientist or a group of scientists that can explain an observed phenomenon, but it has not been proved to be absolute. It will be proved to be absolutely true.
Yes.
it is in the phase of trying to explain something, but it has not been established fully. So this is the theory. Once you reach an observed fact that can justify what you have proposed, then you raise it from the level of being a theory to the level of being a fact.
Observed, that means something you can touch or see.
Something you can prove.
You can prove. That has no other...
No, unless this is the basics of the present day science.
Yes.
Unless you can test something physically, you cannot say that it is there.
Okay.
So the Big Bang theory, as I said, is a theory. It does not rank anything above that. One cannot say definitely this is the process by which the universe has been created.
Okay.
Yet, as I said, there are numerous observations that can testify to the correctness of that theory, but cannot uplift it to the level of a fact. We find a statement in the Holy Quran that can help us to raise this theory to an established fact. Not because humans have proved it to be an established fact, but because of the reference in the Holy Quran, or in the glorious Quran, because this is the word of the Creator, in its divine purity, and it has to be absolutely correct. The Quran reads, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, أَوَلَمْ يَرَى الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَنَّ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ كَانَتَا رَتْقًا فَفَتَقْنَاهُمَا وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ أَفَلَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. The verse comes in the context of negating disbelievers, of lamenting on the fact that people can see these signs and yet do not believe. So, أَوَلَمْ يَرَى, haven't they seen, those unbelievers, haven't they seen a testimony to the might, wisdom, and knowledge of the Creator that has created this wonderful universe, this vast, immense, orderly universe, by an explosion? And as we mentioned earlier as well, any explosion can disperse the matter from which it has been exploded, can push it randomly into outer space. But for an explosion to produce such a wonderfully ordered, balanced, carefully running universe, it cannot be the product of a chaos. It has to be a product of a very, very carefully planned wisdom. So Allah is taking the creation of the universe by a process of explosion as a testimony against disbelievers, because this alone is enough to testify to the fact that this universe is not the product of an accident. It is the product of a chance. It did not create itself by itself, but it needs a creator, and this creator has to be above his creation. Neither matter nor energy can shape his identity, neither space nor time can delimit that identity, because all these are parts of his creation, and a creation cannot control a creator.
Yes.
So we as Muslims, we can raise the theory of the Big Bang to the status of an established fact because of this notion in the glorious Quran. Because, as I said, this is the word of the Creator and its divine purity. It has to be absolutely correct. So no other person can do that other than the Muslims, because they don't have the Quran. But once we present this Quran to the people of other beliefs, they can see in this statement alone enough testimony to justify that this book cannot be the work of man. It is the word of the Creator and its divine purity. Because the Big Bang Theory was formulated in a joke in the middle part of the 20th century.
It was just
1955.
Yes.
And I know the person who introduced this term, and he was one of the leading astronomers of the time. He used to be a professor at Cambridge University, and I met him personally and discussed with him.
So that was in England?
In England, yes. Yes. And this man was an adamant supporter of the steady state theory.
Oh.
He said the universe is eternal. It has no beginning and will have no end. And they call this the steady state theory. And then in an interview with the BBC, he gave this term, the Big Bang, as a joke.
Making fun of people who think like that.
Yes, making fun of people, indeed.
Yeah, actually, I was going to ask you about this.
Yes.
Literally, the word Big Bang, this is the sound of a huge explosion. Is that correct?
Yes, Big Bang.
So it's the bang, the word bang is like the
yes.
voice of the explosion.
As I said,
Right.
this is not a scientific term,
Yes.
Yeah.
but
I was wondering.
it
It's
became
very
a scientific
comic.
term.
Yes.
This man said it as a joke.
Yes.
Actually, trying to mock the people who were talking about creation. He said the Big Bang. And people found it a suitable
The most
term.
suitable.
Yes, and they used it. Yes, yes. And he did not mean that he believed in it, but later on he came to believe in it at the end of his life.
How the Big Bang came about? How it came about?
It came about, you see, matters of creation in its three dimensions: the creation of the universe, the creation of life, the creation of man. These are areas that cannot be tested by the human senses, because this is something above the human intellect. How did the universe come into being? As a Muslim, I say that this is the divine plan. Allah wanted it to be, and it was. He ordered it to be, and it was. For a secular scientist, he would say the condensation of matter and energy into a small entity would cause that entity to be in a critical position, in an unstable condition. So it had to explode, because he does not want to admit a creator to the universe. He would say this was a critical state, and it just exploded. But one of the leading professors of astronomy of today, he wrote in one of his wonderful books, saying that we know that any explosion is a dispersion of matter and energy. But no explosion can build. Explosions usually destroy.
Destroy.
See, an explosion cannot build. But for an explosion to build this wonderful universe, it has to be a carefully planned explosion.
And this
not just
scholar is Muslim?
something that would happen randomly or out of chaos.
He's Muslim, this scholar?
No.
He's not Muslim.
It's not Muslim.
So how does he react to what he says?
Well, sometimes you see scientific activity began in the Renaissance with negating religion.
Yeah.
And that's why science has taken always the purely materialistic approach. They don't want to go into any kind of belief, any kind of morality, any kind of control over human behavior.
Yes. But
They just contain themselves within matter and energy and nothing more than that. But because of this, most of the scientific conclusions in the past were anti-religion, were against belief in a creator. And even if they see the evidence obvious and clear, they will try to distort things and put it in a framework of saying nature.
nature.
And when you ask what's nature,
Yes.
nobody can define nature, you see. So can you define nature to me? But it's a replacement. So instead of saying Allah, he says nature.
Yes.
And saying the deity or the divine being, he says nature. Just a way of escape. But lately, the bulky conclusions of scientific research have come to support and substantiate and establish every single belief that came in the Holy Quran or in the traditions of Muhammad, peace be upon him. So science by itself today proves that this universe cannot be the product of an accident or a chance or a chaos. It has to be a carefully planned universe. Otherwise, it would have never been the way it is today. And as I said earlier, you see, in a previous episode, these cosmic verses in the Holy Quran are actually an address to the people of our time. It's a way of talking to the people of our time in the only language they can accept and the only language they can understand. And that's why, unless we use them, we'll lose the battle.
Yes.
I see what you're saying.
We have a battle against Islam today, and we have to convince people that their stand against Islam is a wrong stand, and the easiest way to convince them with this are these scientific notions in the glorious Quran.
Yes, inshallah. Thank you, Dr. Zaghloul. We'll go for a short break. And after the break, inshallah, we'll continue with the cosmic verses. We start with that.
Inshallah.
Okay, thank you, dear viewers.
Closing the Gap.
Why closing the gap?
In this program, Sheikh Yusuf Estes and Omar Dunlap are going to discuss how to bridge the gap between peoples of different cultures and orientations, the gap between males and females, Muslims and non-Muslims, the East and the West.
Human beings feel like that they're being slighted one way or the other. The gap between the youth and the elders, the gap between various status in working, the work field, and education, and then trying to provide solutions for these particular problems.
Dear viewers, welcome back and continuing with Professor Al-Najjar. Dr. Zaghloul, we were talking about cosmic verses.
Yes.
What exactly does cosmic verses mean?
Cosmos is the totality of the universe.
Yes.
Everything that's being. Matter, energy, plants, animals, humans, the earth, the moon, the sun, the stars, the constellations, the wind, running water, clouds, everything. This is the universe, of the cosmos.
Yes.
You see, and that's why when we say cosmic verses, means verses that relate to the creation in general.
Yes.
To everything that's been created.
Yes.
Everything other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the cosmos. You see.
So anything that was created by Allah subhanahu
By
wa ta'ala.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
is
Naam.
Okay.
And we have discussed the theory of the Big Bang theory, and we said that we as Muslims can raise this theory to the status of a law, actually, the status of an established fact, not because experimental science has proved it to be a fact, but because there is a notion about it in the glorious Quran, where Allah says, أَوَلَمْ يَرَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَنَّ السَّمَوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ كَانَتَا رَتْقًا فَفَتَقْنَاهُمَا. And ratq means a condensed entity. While fatq means an exploded body. So ratq is the opposite of fatq.
Yeah.
It means that all this universe was in a single entity in the past, and Allah ordered that to be, and it went into smoke, and out of that smoke He has ordered the earth to be created as an earth, ordered the other heavenly bodies to be created, every one with its own special mass, its own special volume, its own special physical and chemical characteristics, its own special role for the establishment of that universe. So no man worth his salt can ever claim that this orderly, systematic, wonderful universe is the product of an accident or a chance. But everything in that universe can clearly testify to the knowledge, wisdom, and might of the Creator, and can reflect on the greatness of that Creator who is exalted above all His creation without parallels, partners, or similitudes.
But Dr. Zaghloul, was that the same understanding 1400 years ago?
I cannot really impose on people 14 centuries ago to understand the scientific knowledge of today.
Yes, of
I cannot assume that.
Yeah.
But of course, when a Bedouin at the lifetime of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam would listen to these verses, he will definitely try to understand it in a way that would appeal to his standard of knowledge, standard of culture, his understanding of the Arabic words. Definitely the Arabs at the time, moment of revelation, understood that heavens and earth were an entity.
Yes.
And this is found in all the tafsir. And this fact came to human knowledge through experimental science only in the 20th century.
Yes.
If you told anybody before the middle part of the 20th century, actually 1955,
19, very close.
before 1955, if you tell anybody that the earth and the heavens were a single entity, they would just laugh at you. They wouldn't believe it at all. And that's why I'm saying one of the most miraculous aspects of the Holy Quran is that the verse, of course, verses related to religion are very simple and very obvious. You cannot get to understandings of it. But I'm talking about the cosmic verses. Because these were tailored for all times.
Yes.
For all times. A Bedouin at the time of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam would find something in it that would suit his intellectual level.
Yes.
But now we see something different in it. And the two understandings do not contradict.
Yeah.
They
Complete each other.
integrate each other.
Yes.
You see.
But
Yes.
how did the Prophet Muhammad explain that? Or
Definitely he understood it. Definitely.
Yes. No, but how did he explain it to his companions? How
Of
did
course,
it
he
work?
wouldn't explain it in the way we talk about it
Right.
today, because the human intellect at that time could not possibly grasp
Sure.
what we understand today.
Absolutely.
But he definitely understood the details of it because he was in contact with Archangel Jibreel all the time. Archangel Jibreel used to come to him every night of the month of Ramadan to read the Quran with him and explain it to him. So he sallallahu alayhi wasallam knew the details of everything.
Yes.
But of course he could not spell that out to his companions, otherwise their intellect would not bear it.
So he gave a general explanation.
A general explanation,
I see
definitely.
what you're saying.
Taking
Yeah.
you back to the Big Bang now. The verse states that there was the heaven and earth together.
Yes.
Therefore, there was a matter that was present before the Big Bang happened. How do scientists explain that this matter came into being? By chance? And how can
They
it...
cannot explain it.
Okay.
They cannot explain it. And this is, again, one of the necessities of Muslims coming forward to explain these things to people who have no faith. Because, you see, they get lost. You see, in the area of creation, if you read any book written by an atheist or an agnostic or secular mentality, you find him really entering a dark tunnel with no light at the end. You see, he is lost. When they speak about the creation of man, or the creation of life, or the creation of the universe, wallahi, they are virtually lost. Regardless of the ample information they have at hands. Actually, they have more information than we do.
Yeah, and tools. They have very
Yes, they have the
advanced
tools
tools
for it.
also. Yeah.
But yet they cannot explain it properly. We as Muslims believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created this universe out of nothing. No matter, no energy, nothing. He ordered it to be and it came. He ordered this initial body to explode and it exploded. To change into smoke and change into smoke. From that smoke ordered the earth and the other heavenly bodies to come into being. Willingly or unwillingly, they came willingly. So this is the essence of Islam, the essence of belief in Islam. And unless you have that belief, of course you get lost quite easily.
But one of these scholars can have this belief after he is subjected to the studies.
One of the scholars can
become a believer after subjected to the studies.
Definitely, if you can explain this to, especially somebody in the field.
Yes.
Exactly.
If you can explain this, of course, as I said, in the early tafsir, early exegesis of the Quran, all the commentary came on this verse that the earth and the heavens were one entity.
Only
They were
linguistic,
joined
yes.
together.
Yeah.
You see what they understood, but joined together, earth as earth and heaven as heaven, or firmament as firmament.
Yes.
This is their understanding. But now we understand that they were not necessarily in their present day shape.
Yes.
They were in an initial form, which would not know anything about it. An initial form with excessive density, with excessive physical, chemical characteristics unknown to us, because this is beyond human knowledge. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered it to explode. It did explode.
Yes.
To change in smoke, created from that smoke whatever he liked to create, and we have this wonderful, systematic, orderly universe.
Is this information present in any other religious book?
I beg your pardon?
Is this information present in any other religious book?
No.
Only in
if you look
Quran.
at the areas of creation in the Pentateuch, the first 5 chapters of the Old Testament, which they consider it to be the Torah, you will find a language that is of the level of the knowledge of the time. That's very simple, very primitive. It may have some initial correct source, but when you change the divine language into human language, you actually distort it quite a lot. So they talk about creation of the universe, but in a very primitive way that nobody today
cannot
accept.
challenge the science of today.
It
Not
cannot,
like the Quran.
It cannot, of course, and that's why, if we have time, I'll say this.
Yes.
A very leading professor in our time, Maurice Bucaille, he used to be a professor at the Sorbonne University in Paris. And he's a medical doctor. He was called to deal with some of the pharaonic mummies in Egypt. Started to rot, and he was called through UNESCO to deal with these mummies. And as he was dealing with one of these mummies, he found lots of salt in his guts.
Yeah.
So he said, this man died drowning. Everybody around him laughed and said, we all know that. What did you come through with? I said, how did you know it? I only knew it now because I opened his throat and it was full of salt.
Yeah.
He said, this is the Pharaoh of Moses. And the Quran tells us that the Pharaoh of Moses died drowning.
Yes.
And they called the verse, اليوم ننجيك ببدنك لتكون لمن خلفك آية. And he asked, do you really have this in the Quran? They said, yes. Do you have a French translation of the meaning of the Quran? They said, yes. They brought him the translation. He sat down in the hotel here in Cairo, and through his scientific background, he started to pick up the scientific notions.
Yes.
And he wrote a wonderful book, La Bible, le Coran et la science, the Bible, the Quran, and science. And he showed clearly that all the scientific notions in the Old Testament are wrong as far as the current knowledge of science would go, while all the scientific notions in the Holy Quran are precise and correct in the light of the present day knowledge.
Those who fear Allah the most are the scientists and the scholars.
Definitely,
Yes.
definitely. And that's why I do believe firmly that the more we explain these cosmic verses to the people of our time in a purely scientific language, without any bias, without any conceit, you see, or pride, we present it. This is the truth in the Quran.
Exactly.
And if the Quran is truthful in the area you excel in the area of science, and you find that it's truthful, it has to be truthful in the knowledge of the world of the unseen, which we cannot feel and touch with our own hands.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Doctor, for your time. Thanks
Barakallah.
to
Thank you
our
very
guests. Inshallah, till next episode. Thank you.
Oh